Alaikum. Peace be upon you all. This is your host, Amna Ahmed, and you're watching Muslim Network TV. Welcome back to another episode of Next Gen, where we not only speak about the issues and crises that we are facing in our world, we also speak to young people who are addressing these challenges head on. You're watching us on Galaxy 19 satellite, MuslimNetwork.tv, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and soon on Apple TV as well. Now, today on Next Gen, we have a quite unique guest. A young man whose father passed away 14 years ago due to cancer, but today, both his siblings, his brother and sister, deal with that same cancer that took their father's life. We have with us Ibrahim Mansoor, who describes himself as an avid cook, loves video games and fitness and education. He's quite an academic, and despite going through so much at such a young age, he has straight A's, is a uni student, and a tutor. Thank you so much, Ibrahim, for being with us today.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you, Amna? How is
Good,
everybody?
good,
Hope
good.
everyone's
Everything
well.
is I'm just so excited that you're here with us, and we all look forward to hearing your story. I know that it takes a lot to put yourself out there and make yourself vulnerable enough to tell your story.
Yeah, definitely. I think I put myself out there, kind of like there's a lot of anxiety behind this, but I thought, you know what, it's for the greater good, and sometimes it's good to get out there and try and describe the situation to people so they have more of an idea of what's going on instead of me constantly like typing it. It's more so they can see the full expression on my face as well.
Hmm. Yeah, so let's get into it. And can you
That's
tell us about your father and his cancer and the story behind that?
um well, personally, I was only 6 years old when my father had passed. He was diagnosed in around 2003. So growing up, I only knew him to be ill. Um, so he was. It was much. It was a long time ago. So now medicine has changed dramatically, and there's so much more out there. But obviously back then, there was only so many options. He had difficulties with his tumor, and he actually went to the States to get some treatment. He actually went to New York and he received treatment. And his was located in his upper body, so I think around the stomach. But again, I'm not so certain because of like the paperwork, because it's such a long time ago, and
Yeah.
it was when my mom sort of she wasn't aware of everything as she is now, because obviously we have so much more. We're grown up, we can understand it, and if there's something that my mom isn't sure about, we can explain it. But yeah, he had it, and he had a few operations and stuff, and then sadly he passed in 2006. He became quite aggressive, quite I think fast. So he from diagnosis up until his passing it was about 3 years, I'd say, something
Yeah.
like that.
And he was
Yeah.
32? Is that correct?
He was 32. He had just turned 32. So his birthday was in around June, and then he passed in August. So it's quite
So
young.
you were quite young. Yeah, I was just gonna say that. And I'm sure that that affected your family drastically. Tell us about how it impacted your family and perhaps continues to do so till today.
I think growing up, there was a lot of like, difficulty for my mother. She was like, what am I going to do and stuff? And there was at one point where we were getting, um, like, not, I wouldn't say therapy, but we were seeing like a social worker. And obviously, because we were so young, especially me, I had no clue who this woman was that was coming to our house. But she was slowly trying to describe to us what's going on and stuff
Hmm.
like that. And then after my father's passing, I think that's when things started to get really difficult because obviously within the Asian community, like maybe not so much now compared to before, but obviously how people see women who have lost their husbands or women who actually have been through divorce, they've had a lot of like issues and then stuff like that. And she struggled a lot. And in terms of finding work and stuff like that, she literally did so much for us. And she has this very inspirational story. Like when my father passed, she only had like around £1, so £1 in her bank account, and she literally worked really hard for us to, have what other children had, because we grew up, alhamdulillah, around so many of our cousins, and they had their fathers there. They were doing everything, and my mom's brothers, they stepped in, so they kind of like became our fatherly figures, and they made sure our life was not different to anybody else. They tried their best, and obviously at the back of your mind, you just think, oh, where we don't have a dad, we don't know what it's like. And when you see other people, we're just confused, like, what's it like to have a father? And even sometimes now, like I remember not a while ago, I had a friend that his parents had gone abroad, and I said to him, "How's your mom? How did she find it?" And he goes, "Yeah, my dad had fun too." And I was like completely forgot that people actually have fathers. So it's quite like so used to it that it's crazy. And my mom
Mhm.
always said that I'm your mom and dad. Like God did this because we can do it, and it's just how it was. And we grew up quite vulnerable as children, and but in a way, there's a beauty of it, because me, my brother and sister, compared to, I say, a lot of your stereotypical sibling relationship where everyone's fighting and stuff like that. We had a lot of empathy towards each other. We were always close. We were those really affectionate with each other, and we weren't like the type to make fun of each other and stuff. So it did shape us very differently compared to a lot of our immediate family and like friends and stuff. So it's quite interesting how it all played out, actually.
Yeah, and you describe your mom as serving the role of your mother and your father. I think that's quite powerful. The fact that, she didn't even let you guys feel this huge loss for your family. That is very beautiful. And it just, it took me a moment to kind of take that in when you said that. It is
Yeah.
very, very powerful. But how about the community around you? I know that Birmingham has a quite large Muslim community. Were they helpful and, supportive of your family, or how did that go?
I think it's a lot of people became aware, and they knew that my mom was very vulnerable, and she had a lot of like hardship and stuff like that. But I'd say in terms of the community itself, I can only speak from what I know. Um, People were supportive, like to an extent. I think most of us both came within the family.
Mhm,
People just knew, the people get labeled and they only know, oh, she's the one without a husband. Her husband's not here, stuff like that, and it can be quite annoying. But
mhm,
our, my mom's, especially my mom's brother and sisters, shout out to them. They really made us believe that, you know, that you're not worth any less. If anything, you're worth more. And we had a lot of like, it was very much like it was just us against everybody. Because I think so, we were like the first kind of people to experience such a unique type of loss. And obviously, people
mhm,
pass when they go old, and that was happening within the family. But obviously, because of people are old, it's expected. But for someone so young and from a particular illness, it was very shocking. People knew about his passing before, and even I did. I only found out a few years ago. Um,
mhm,
Not that mom was trying to hide it from me. It was just a topic that never came about. I had my sort of yeah, it was curious about it. But I remember speaking to my auntie, and she had told me, and I was just like envisioning the whole that same day where we lost our father, and I was just like, I had no clue, and I was just like, this is really interesting, that. And then subhanallah, now the same things come for both my brother and my sister. It's crazy.
yeah. So it seems that, the community might not have been as supportive as they could have been, but you have a supportive family, a tight-knit family, and that does seem very great. But, your father passed away 14 years ago, but your siblings currently are dealing with that same illness. How has it been going for both of them, your brother and your sister?
Um, so with my sister, she was diagnosed back in 2017. So she was only 18 years old. So as soon as she just left school, her life was just like, it changed dramatically. Like, you have so many appointments going on, this and that. And obviously, because it was such a drastic change for us, and I remember I was at work or something, and I came home and everyone was sitting in a different room. So we have two like reception rooms, and everyone was sitting in a different one. I was like, why are we all sitting here? We usually sit over there. And then they broke the news to me, and I was obviously in shock because my sister was like she's like my best friend. And it's probably odd for brothers to say that, but we had a lot in common, and we enjoy each other's company a lot. Growing up, she was like my big sister. If anyone said anything to me, she would like, don't say that. You're not allowed to say that. So it was quite inspiring of her when I was growing up. But went to see her so, weak and kind of unstable. It was just heartbreaking. Like, why is it happening again? And then my brother was very spoiled. We've all been there for each other. And then my she actually had treatment in America just a while back in 2018, and then a few months later they had said she was free, she was cancer free, and she's in remission. And then unfortunately a few months later they said it's come back, and it's come back aggressive. And that was just last year, no, 2 years ago, sorry, just late 2018. And then my brother was only just diagnosed this year in April. It was just around the time when the lockdown in the UK was announced, and it was annoying because obviously we had the pressure from COVID, and that kind of how annoying it was for like cancer patients in general. COVID has been really dangerous and annoying for them, only to then now have the same kind of struggles with my brother with his operations and stuff. So it all came back as like a big, like, it's like someone just hit us with a car like at full speed, and we were just like, we've come so far with my sister trying to accept it. It's been almost 3 years, and then this just came back and it just hit us, and we were like, just felt so like, when you're so upset that you're angry, and that's how we felt. It was very, very strange. It's quite hard to come to accept it even now. Me, like, I'm quite a very logical person. I'll take things as they are, and but even it's hard to accept. I'll just hear the word and I'll just tremble, or if it doesn't show on my face, I'll feel it in my body. It's just unimaginable, and I wouldn't. It's kind of the pain that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. It's very, very difficult to describe this kind of like heartbreak in a way.
Yeah, you described this, beautiful relationship that you have with your siblings, your sister being that protective older sister that everybody wants, and then your brother as well. And this hits you guys. I'm sure that this Ramadan was completely different than the Ramadans that came past, and with COVID-19, it does seem like it all did hit you. And one thing that you mentioned was that your sister was always this protective one in your family, but it seems now that you are keeping your whole family tight and together. And we will be speaking more about the work that you are doing only at 20 years old. I think that our audience needs to support you and amplify the causes that you are fighting for. You're watching us on Galaxy 19 Satellite, MuslimNetwork.tv, Amazon Fire TV, Roku TV, and we'll be right back after our short break.
Billboards are popping up all over the country with an...
Our neighbors don't realize that Muslims are absolutely opposed to ISIS.
Salam. My name is Abdul Malik Mujahid. I'm an imam in Chicago.
16 shots! No me!
No justice!
No me!
So how do we bring up the energy which can really have an impact on the world? You need to build bridges of understanding among people, and we need to have America moving forward.
That lesson learned brought the strength of humanity to America, which is the diversity.
Mujahid Talks, only on Muslim Network TV. Faithfully connected.
And I'm here with about the cancer that his family is facing. Now, Ibrahim, tell us about something about sarcoma cancer that you wish people understood. You talked about, before that many people think they know what cancer is, but really they don't until it affects someone close to them. What is something that you wish people were a bit more educated on?
Like, okay, sarcoma is a cancer that it comes from the bones, so it doesn't directly it doesn't directly come from the particular organ involved, but it derives from the bones of the bone cells. And I think the whole sort of, when people think of cancer, they think mainly breast cancer or like leukemia. And obviously, not to take away from those people struggling with those, it's just that when it comes to cancer such as sarcoma, there's not a lot of information about them. So, like, especially in the media. So when people hear that word, they probably wouldn't even think it's cancer. They'll probably just think it's something else. But there's so many different types of cancers. There's hundreds of types, and it's unfortunate that some cancers are pushed to the side in a way because they sort of not shown as much, and there's a lot less research into them. So when it comes to sort of treatment and stuff, there's only so many options that are available, and that's kind of unfortunate for the patients involved because looking at the cancer patients of those sort of cancers that are more mainstream, people know more about. There's a lot more research, a lot more funding that's involved in them. They could be just as dangerous. It's just that not many people know, not many people are aware of what cancer is. And I think 9 times out of 10, obviously, unless they're a biology student,
Mhm.
if I asked them what cancer was, 9 times out of 10 people would not
They
know
wouldn't
how to describe it. They would just say it's just that it's that bad disease, isn't it? It's that really
know.
one that affects so many people. I go, yeah, but it's quite dangerous how it works because it's just a fault in so how give a slight biology lesson here. There's the cells we replicate for growth, and when there's um a fault in the replication of the DNA and all of that, there is that fault gets copied and copied and copied, and that's how tumors grow. And then unfortunately when those faults come, it works like a typical, like a flow chart or like a, I don't know, manufacturing line. If there's one mistake, everything goes wrong. And when so many of those mistakes are repeated, it can cause stuff like organ failure and stuff like that. So the cancer is very like much a silent killer, and it causes so many other diseases as well. So it's just annoying, like that. Obviously, it's not from a place of asking pity or anything. It's just that
Mhm.
a lot of people are unaware of the situation, and I think when people are unaware, they lack empathy. Um, so it's I take it upon myself to try and explain things as much as they need to be, so people are aware that, God forbid, if they ever face something like that, then they can be as prepared as they can be. And it's just unfair, and no one should ever have to go through this. But when you do, you should go at full speed. Make sure you know what you're doing. You're talking to the right people, and educate yourself. Like I can even say, vouch for my mother, and she's probably learned so much biology in the last few years. And you can ask her the
Mhm.
same question. If you say with anybody in my family, and they'll be like, "What is that? What are you talking about?" But now, because it's such a if anything, it's the main aspect of our lives that we are aware, and we want other people to be aware. We don't want them to learn the way we learned, and that way more funding, more research and stuff can be put into it.
The irony is, right, especially here in the United States, so many people are affected by cancer, but then so
Yeah.
many people also aren't educated about it. So I think it's important that you're taking it upon yourself, and you're taking a lot of other things upon yourself as well. The tutor in you just came out when you were
Yeah.
explaining the little bio lesson, but you are 20 years old. I want to emphasize that and tell us about what you have been doing to help your family go through this difficult time.
So, because of the cancers that my siblings have got, my sister, the type she has, it's caused her to be quite immobile, so she cannot walk because of a particular operation she had a few years ago. So for her, it's impossible for her to walk. And because of the tight space within our house, because the UK houses tend to be quite small and like they're tight packed, when it comes to maneuvering around the house, it can be quite dangerous. And she has hurt herself many times, and it's caused her to end up in hospital and stuff. And it's heartbreaking to see someone go through so much pain only for them to not be comfortable in their own house. Now, obviously, as a Muslim woman, Muslim girl, that element of privacy is just gone. She's in the main room, the living room, the hospital bed is there. And it's just unfortunate that, she's, as a Muslim woman, she's trying to embrace modesty as much as she can and try to be, take care of herself. It's just because she's on full display. As soon as someone does the doorbell, she has to quickly cover herself, cover her hair, and she can't have to go. She won't be able to just walk off into the other room. Just everything about her is just on display, and it's quite uncomfortable. And with my brother, unfortunately, we've got a bed for him in the other reception. So it's like, I hate to describe it, it's like a hospital ward in our house. We go from one room to the other, and it's quite upsetting. So I took it upon myself. I go, you know what? Let's not just sit here and do nothing about it. Let's see if we can actually improve, their lives and quality of life. So I took it upon myself. And actually, I didn't tell my mother about this. And till this day, she's like, why didn't you tell me? I started a GoFundMe page to raise not only money, but awareness about the situation, how these cancers can affect people's lives. So I'm raising money just so we can find a property that is much larger, much more spacious, so we can actually have a house that doesn't look like a hospital, a house that actually is a house where my sister can be very comfortable practicing and sort of, be in her own element, and same for my brother. And not as soon as someone walks through the house, they just see them on their beds. They don't. And it's just, there's so many factors that play into it. And, growing up in this house, we've only faced so much hardship in this house, and the strain on my mother's face, we see, it's like I always say, to one direction, we see my brother, the other, we see my sister. And then when we look at each other, we just see so much pain that's being hidden. So I go, let's try and do something. There's only so much that's in our control, but the little that is, let's do something about it. And with the support of the right people, we can fix it. So I'm doing that. I'm pushing it even now, and hopefully soon we can move out and have a better quality of life, inshallah.
Now, Ibrahim, how much have you raised, and what is your end goal and your advice, and what do you urge our audience to do?
So we're currently on about, so it's in British pounds, so it's currently about almost just under 57,000. And the target I've placed on the GoFundMe is about 100,000. Now, obviously, because of all the hardship we've been going through, and I'm so young, I can't afford to work. I mean, I can't work to afford to buy a house. I can't take out a mortgage. And obviously, my mom is a constant carer for my siblings. It's very tough. But what we're trying to do is to make things better, to make, our living situation better. And the audience, I want them to understand and help us out on this venture of ours, to show that, like I always say, we have, like we collectively say, we have cancer doesn't have us. So we shouldn't let it take over our lives, let it ruin everything. The little we can change, we can do. And I know it's something, because personally I'm quite, and a lot of my family will agree, I'm quite a laid back, closed person. So for me to do this has been completely out of my comfort zone. But obviously, when life shows you certain things, shows you different situations, you have to adapt. And even though you don't want to, you have to. So it is quite out of my comfort zone, but with God's will, it will work out for us. And that's why I'm here today, to tell everybody about it.
Yeah, and I think that you've done an absolutely phenomenal job at telling us, your story and your experience, and we thank you. And to our audience, I urge you all to donate to the GoFundMe. We have linked it in the banner, and we will link it again in the description of the video. Please donate to the GoFundMe. And I don't really think I need to say much. They have heard your story, and really it is powerful and very deep. So I thank you again for coming on and being vulnerable with us.
No problem.
Thank you so much, Ibrahim, and thank you to our audience for tuning in today on NextGen, and we'll be with you next time. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all.